morning, everybody, and welcome. We all look forward to working with you for the next hour and 15 minutes and covering a topic that is very near and dear and critical to so many of us in the human resources field, which is safety programs. And in particular, today we're going to be discussing some concepts and strategies behind developing a safety incentive program. So we appreciate your attendance here. We've got a full house. We've got a lot of content to cover. So we're going to get started right away. A couple of just housekeeping items to cover with everybody. Number one, most importantly, as with everything we do here at Employers Group, we really encourage and request that you participate with us through questions, comments, suggestions. And just to keep things moving quickly, on your screen there for the webinar, you can just type your question into the chat field and we will get to it. We will cover your questions as they come up. As soon as we get a little pause, we'll bring up your questions. So please do. We encourage that. Number two, this program is authorized for 1 hour of HRCI recertification credit. Upon completion of the program today, we will send out those certificates to everybody who needs one based upon actual participation. We just need to verify that you were registered for the webinar, and then we will send those out to you. And by way of introduction, in the room here we have, I guess it's the three Stevens. I guess that's our common theme here. We have running the board for us today, our tech guru, Mr. Stephen Ramsayer, myself, Bill Stevens, and the man of the hour, Mr. Joe Stevens. Joe is no stranger to most of us here at Employers Group, and many of you, I'm sure. Joe is one of our favorite people, particularly when we have topics related to safety and strategies that employers can utilize to mitigate risk and to develop and establish a stronger return on investment relative to safety programs. Joe, just like everybody here at Employers Group, Joe is very good at giving you the answer that you need to your question. He can say yes, no, or whatever you may need to answer your question. But more importantly, and what we'll be looking at here today, is that Joe likes to strategize. He likes to come up with creative solutions. He likes to come up with different ideas. And that's kind of what we want to bring up with you today, the concept of incentive programs. Yeah, this is something that's been kicked around for years and years and years. It's a controversial topic. We know that, and we welcome your challenges on some of this too. But Joe's going to take some slightly different approaches to this and give you some creative solutions that we think you're going to find very interesting. So we hope you enjoy this. Please, again, feel free to participate. And I'm going to turn it over now to the president and founder of Bridge Safety Consultants, Mr. Joe Stevens.
Good morning, everyone. A pleasure to have you with us this morning, and it's a pleasure to be doing this for Employers Group. On your first slide, it says a safety recognition program, and that's because I want to change the name. Safety incentive programs do have some controversy to them, and I think it's understandable. It's too close a link with safety and incentives. That's not really what we want to accomplish. I think incentives, rewards, awards are part of what we want to do to encourage safe behavior, but I like the idea of a safety recognition program, a safety achievement program, a safety culture program, whatever you want to call it, is a little bit better and a little bit more comprehensive than safety incentive programs. So let's agree to start with safety recognition programs. And what do we want our safety recognition program to accomplish? The first thing is to motivate and encourage the folks to be safer. If we accomplish those two, we're moving in the right direction. We want to inspire them. We also want to give, obviously, recognition to folks that have done well, to teams that have done well, departments that have gone years without an injury deserve some sort of recognition from us. One of the key elements in the program we'll be talking about this morning will be appreciation. It's very important that we let folks that work for us know that we appreciate their efforts. And if we do it right, we're going to instill pride in everyone. And maybe one of the most important things is to encourage and boost morale as well. Just a quick word about myself. I started the company 10 years ago. I'd been a corporate executive with workers' comp, and I'd been with enough companies to see good programs and not so good programs. I felt like I knew enough that I could help companies out there, so as I say, 10 years ago, started. Governor Schwarzenegger was nice enough to put me on his task force for workers' comp reform back in 2004 that made a big difference. The SBA recognized our company as Entrepreneurs of the Year in 2007, and we've gone forward from there. I think what we offer companies today is more comprehensive than anything we've done in prior years. So with that, let's move directly on. The goal of the program is a stronger safety culture. Let's be very clear on that. It's got to go beyond a Band-Aid or a tourniquet. What we're really after is changing the entire culture of your organization. We want a happier workforce. We want one that coordinates better and stresses teamwork. We want greater awareness of safety and conditions in the workplace, and we want a workforce that's more committed to safety. You can see these guys in the picture who work for a metal fabrication shop. They make kind of trailers that get pulled behind cars that haul motorcycles and small things like that. Tough work, low wages. This is not your typical safety meeting for companies in that industry, and yet obviously they're motivated and feeling positive. One of the key things you want to accomplish in your safety recognition program is a positive feeling from your workforce. Well, let's start by defining what safety culture is. If that's our goal, to establish a stronger safety culture, then let's make sure we're all on the same page and we know what culture is. I like the first definition the best: the attitudes, beliefs, perceptions, and values that your employees share in relation to safety. The attitudes and values are, to me, the key. The second definition stresses that it's got to be more important, it's got to be a greater priority, and the third definition again reiterates those concepts of values, beliefs, and attitudes. So the challenge for each of you, for us, is how do you convey those values? How do you get across to everybody this idea of a strong safety culture, of folks that share the attitude that the most important thing in this workplace is my safety? There's three reasons why safety culture is incredibly important to any business out there. The first are the costs of workers' comp, as you all know, are not only large, but they're getting larger all the time. Rates have shot up in the last 2 years. Depending on your industry, they're up as much as 35 and 40%. Anything you can do to reduce claims, reduce injuries, will save the company a lot of money, and I'm going to cover that in just a second. Second reason is, of course, injuries. We don't want our folks to get injured in any way, and some of them can be terrible. They can hurt a business irreparably. We worked with a landscape company several years ago where they were very lax about safety and had a cave-in and a death. And it took the company almost a year to bounce back from that kind of tragedy, because it made everybody in the company upset and concerned and worried and impacted morale. So anything we can do to have fewer injuries, fewer opportunities for something terrible to happen, we've made a positive impact on our company. The third reason is morale. If we do this right, if we put together a program that's comprehensive and positive, we can really boost morale, and morale is one of those cornerstones to a better company. It's one of the building blocks to a happier work environment. I want to talk a little bit about the savings potential, then we'll move on to the human part. But today, in most manufacturing environments, in most industries with rates and categories that are significant, the average recordable claim costs $12,000 to $15,000. That's the impact on your workers' comp premium, $12,000 to $15,000. Forget that it was a minor injury that had sutures and it only cost $1,000. The average claim is going to impact you $12,000 to $15,000. Because remember, every claim, no matter how small, adds points to your XMOD. You start with a low XMOD, typically around 45 or 50, and every claim adds points, and you've got to carry those points for 3 full years. That's how we arrive at that staggering figure. Then you look at the savings on soft costs, the productivity, the turnover, the attitude out there that affects the quality of your company. And in many cases, the soft cost savings is even greater than the measurable savings. So financially, having fewer injuries, having a stronger safety culture will pay huge dividends. The last one is sort of a minor point. Those companies that have XMODs under 100 have greater competition for their account. Brokers and carriers want to carry your business, want to provide risk services to you, and thus you get a better rate. So savings potential is very significant. Let me give you 2 examples. You don't have to track everything here, but a company with an XMOD of 120. Remember that the lowest XMOD you can have is somewhere in the 40 to 50 range. I've taken 45 as an example. So XMOD of 120 is 63% higher than your lowest. So 63% higher in this case, the premium was 175. 63% of that is 109,000. If this company had 5 injuries, for example, that means every injury is added 21,875 to their premium. That's not unusual for this size company. Now look at the difference. If they could get their XMOD down to 85 instead of 120, their savings would be 51,000. The premium would drop to 123,000. By the way, I'll send anybody this program if you want to plug in your own numbers to it. Does automatic calculations for it, and you can plug in a heartbeat what your savings would be if you can get your XMOD down. Give you one more example, and this is on the other end. Here's a company with an XMOD of 180. That means 75% of their premium is the result of injuries. If they had no injuries for 3 years, their XMOD would be 45. So if their premium was 450, as our client was in this, that means 337,000 of that 450 is the result of injuries. If the company had 20 injuries, the average cost of an injury is 16,000. Now look at the difference. If they could get their XMOD down to just average, 100 instead of 180, the savings would be 200,000. Instead of 450, they'd be paying 250. So as you can see, the financial impact is huge, and that's just based on premium and nothing else. I'm going to ask you a question at this point in time. Do the following components constitute a strong safety program? A company that has a clean workplace, no hazards, and meets all the safety requirements. They're in perfect compliance. All OSHA regulations are being met. They provide excellent training. And finally, they hold a safety meeting as advertised every month. In your opinion, is that a strong safety program? You probably know I'm leading you down the garden path. It's not. What it really is a starting point. It's a basis. It's a foundation, a platform for a strong safety program. But all those things have done absolutely nothing about the behavior, and that's what really makes the difference. So let's be clear. Safety has 2 separate parts. The first one is compliance, all those things that I just listed. But don't be fooled thinking that all those things give you a strong safety program. They're the basics. But companies with XMODs of 200 and 225 do all those basics. What we've got to do is look at the culture part of safety. We've got to get workers to take responsibility, to look out for each other. When we can get them to take pride in their performance, we've really accomplished something. When we can get them to the point where they believe that safety is their highest priority, that they believe that safety is the company's highest priority, now we've established a culture. And that's what we're going to talk about this morning. That's our goal for this meeting. How are you going to make your culture stronger? How are you going to differentiate yourself? Every company says safety's number one. There's not a company that any of your folks have worked for that hasn't made that statement to them. Safety's number one. It's the most important thing around here. Every company wants to eliminate injuries legitimately. They don't want injuries to happen. No question about that. And almost every company provides training, meetings, safe workplace, all the basic compliance issues that we talked about on it. So, what's the difference between a company with a mod of 75 and a mod of 175? A company that has 10 injuries a year and a company that has 2 injuries a year. That's what we're after today, and that's why we're going to design our program. So here are the parts that we're going to cover today. I see 2 primary challenges to setting up a strong, effective safety recognition program. I believe there's 5 identifiable goals that we're after. If we can meet these goals, we'll have a strong program. And there are 6 components to the recognition program. So we're going to cover all those things today. My guiding principle is this. The people that work for you must be convinced that their safety is your highest priority. If you can keep that principle in mind, that the folks that work for you have to believe that you sincerely place their safety as your highest priority, everything else will fall into place. Remember that 80 to 90% of injuries are avoidable. That's what we're after. If they were unavoidable, we couldn't do much about them. But 80 to 90% of injuries are classified by the Workers' Comp Insurance Rating Bureau as avoidable every year, so we know it's behavior. I said there are 2 challenges. The first one is demonstrate. How do you demonstrate to the folks that work for you that safety is your highest priority? Because actions are what counts. And the great news is the safety recognition program is that vehicle to demonstrate. It's the proof that safety is a higher priority. If you have a dynamic meeting every month where you're giving awards, you're giving recognition, you're showing appreciation, you are clearly demonstrating to the folks that it's not just words, that it's not just posting on a bulletin board or covering it on a dull and boring safety topic meeting. Instead, you've got a meeting that's for the folks, and as you can see the smiling faces, it gets through to them. They understand that safety must be pretty important or my company wouldn't be having this neat program for me. You make it tangible, you make it visible, you go beyond the words. The second challenge is how do you engage the folks? It's one thing to demonstrate to them, now you've got to get them involved. The poster to the right is a program that we did for the large Hilton Hotel at LAX for the housekeepers. And it was a bowling for safety program. So every month we set up pins with dollar values on it. The safer that teams and departments were, the more pins got set up. Each team chose a representative to bowl for them. The more pins they knocked down, the more money they could win. The primary purpose wasn't to make people rich, it was to get people involved. And as you can see by the faces, they had a great time. We did it for a year. You want to keep your program fresh and change it up, so we changed it after a year. But think of the difference between having to sit in a 45-minute meeting listening to someone drone on about a topic that experienced housekeepers have heard for 20 years, as opposed to getting involved, getting engaged, having fun, and being rewarded for their efforts. The safer the team, the longer they'd gone, the more chance they had to win some money on it. So engagement is huge. It's your greatest challenge, but be creative. Think up ways that you can get folks involved and engaged. And meetings are the best possible way to do that. There's nothing but positives if you do it well. And let me add, so that I don't forget, on behalf of Employers Group, Contact Bill at any time if you have questions, or contact me directly for Employers Group. Be happy to answer your questions, never a charge for something like that. If you've got some ideas on a program, run them by me. Happy to tell you what I've done. Remember, we've been doing it for 10 years and over 150 different companies we've set up safety recognition programs for. So please feel free to contact me during or after this presentation. Be happy to help you with any issues. So let me stress again the value of having a dynamic meeting. As you can see from this group, this is another landscaping company. This does not look like your typical safety meeting. We try to turn safety upside down, 180 degrees, instead of that meeting where it's very serious. We try to make it positive, fun, engaging. Their safety can be a really positive thing. Injury-free months ought to be celebrated. If you can entertain them and engage them in a positive meeting, you've really accomplished a lot. So you'll hear me say the word positive many times, because I think that's such a key to getting across the fact that you care about safety and you care about them. So as much as you can keep it positive, do it. I'll give you a couple examples of how fast things can change. Here's a client that had never been, in 15 years, never even been average in terms of their MOD and their injury ratio. We came in 2007, again, turned the culture around. Employees understood almost immediately that the company was taking a different attitude towards safety, that they no longer were the hands-off, now they were the hands-on, now they let everyone know how important safety was. And in the course of 3 years, the MOD dropped from 186 to 70. So it can happen that fast once you get your people engaged. One other example, Extreme, company that had peaked at 273, meaning they were paying almost 4 times if they were just an average company in terms of injuries. In 4 years, they chopped 200 points off that, and we're down to 73. Their savings was over $600,000 a year, and of course they'd save money each of the years as it dropped down there. So don't think it's a hopeless situation. If your MOD's up and the attitude and the culture are not there, it can happen that fast. You do all the right things and you can knock the daylights out of injuries. Remember, they're avoidable. You get folks on board being a little more careful, always wearing their PPE, looking out for each other, maybe making safety suggestions. You can turn the thing around in a hurry. All right, let's talk about the goals, and I said that there were 5 distinct goals to it. One is to provide motivation. We want to motivate and encourage them. The controversy about incentives and money is a legitimate one, but I also think that a pat in the back is nice, but a reward is even nicer. And so a team that's gone a year without an injury, or a department that's gone 6 months without an injury, deserves something. I have no problem giving everybody on that team $25 or $50. It's inspirational to everybody else. So motivation is a key component, I think. The second goal is to find a way to give recognition to everybody. It's a really important part. It's one thing to award somebody $25 or for a team or department to know that they've gone injury-free. It's another to recognize them in front of their peers, to call them to the front of the room, to let them know that we're aware of the great job that you're doing, and we thank you for it. Part of that is appreciation. So when you call them to the front of the room, when they get recognized for doing the right thing, make sure that you also let them know you appreciate that they're doing the right thing. A handshake from a senior manager, a handshake from you makes a difference. Words of thanks and appreciation make a difference. Somebody who's called to the front of the room, gets applause from their peer group, has their picture taken, also gets thanked. You also have a chance to show how much you appreciate their efforts on the behalf of the company. That's a wonderful thing. The fourth goal is accountability and responsibility, and these aren't easy to build in, but you have to do it. You have to set goals and then make sure that everybody knows what they are and that they're held accountable. So if teams don't perform up to standard, that has to be posted. People have to know the teams that are successful and the results of teams that aren't. It's part of getting people to take responsibility. We're all held accountable. Everybody should be held accountable, and there's nothing more important than safety. And then the final goal is to encourage participation and get workers engaged. The two challenges that we talked about in the beginning are huge. And this may be an area where I can help you. So if you're struggling with that, how to get folks engaged, or you want creative ideas, again, contact Bill or contact myself, and we'll get you answers. So let's take the goals one by one and talk them through a little bit. The first one is motivation, and I'm a firm believer that rewards provide motivation. Instant gratification is great. I don't like the idea of somebody winning something and being told it'll be in their paycheck in 2 or 3 weeks, or their paycheck and then taxes are taken out. If we want to make motivation as powerful as possible, we're going to give them instant gratification, whether it's cash or whether it's a gift or a gift card. When we hold the safety recognition meeting, when the winners come to the front to get their rewards, give it to them right then. I like significant awards, and when I design a program, we have 2, 3, 4 tiers of awards, but there's always at least one large one. Couple purposes. I want it to be there for injury-free months, and I want to be able to award it only on injury-free months, and I want a big number that people can focus on and know that they have a chance to win it. And by big number, I mean $200, $250, maybe $300, but something, depending on the size of your company, depending on the number of injuries you have, you could set that goal up there. But provide at least one that's significant so that everybody can think of themselves winning that award and the difference that it will make. Winning $200 in cash may not be a life changer, but it's a weekend changer, and that's really great, especially if your folks are lower wages and, like most of us, living paycheck to paycheck. So have at least one significant award, and sometimes more. All add up, all help. The biggest mistake that companies make in recognition programs or awards programs is thinking that they have to give something to everybody. But unless your budget is going to be completely blown out of shape, that something is going to be nothing. If you've got 100 folks and you give $10 to each person, that's a pretty significant amount, $1,000 that month, and yet $10 is nothing to folks. It immediately becomes an entitlement, something that they expect every month, and you don't get any bang for the buck with it. I'd rather take that $1,000 and shuffle it around, make people eligible for it if they and their team have all been injury-free, but give $25 awards, $50 awards, $100 awards, and as I said, somebody wins $200. So don't subscribe to the theory that you got to give a little something to everybody. It's much more effective if you structure it so that you take that same amount or even less and create some tiers so that folks have a chance to win something significant, and you avoid it being an entitlement. That's important as well. As I mentioned, I like cash or gift cards. I really don't care, but we found that these get the greatest response. You can do gift cards to Target or Food for Less, or a Walmart, or a variety of places where you know they're going to get used and they're almost as good as cash, but whatever suits your organization. But again, go back to that instant gratification. If you're going to give gift cards, please have them ready and available and hand them out to the winners at the time that they win the prizes. Sometimes I get asked about other gifts, other prizes instead of cash or gift cards, like fanny packs or caps or T-shirts. Those are all fine as add-ons, but they don't substitute for a real award. Employees discount them, think that the company's just trying to promote themselves, and you get no credit for it. They're not motivated for it. It just doesn't add anything to it. On the other hand, if you're giving your normal cash or gift cards or rewards, and you add in fanny packs when they have 3 months with no injuries, or you add in T-shirts or caps or things like that, wonderful. Absolute plus to it. Don't think, however, that a pizza party is a substitution for real and true rewards. Pizza parties are nice. People appreciate them. They like them, but that's not the kind of reward that motivates people to think more about safety and have safer behavior. Nobody gets motivated for a piece of pizza. And then finally, one idea that we've started doing in the last couple of years is progressive. So that, let's say we start with a top prize of $150. If the company goes injury-free and meets other metrics, and by the way, we build in other metrics. Near misses have to be kept to a certain level. You can set that goal. First aids to a certain level. Sometimes we want to build in some observations. We have to have some safety suggestions. So you can expand on the idea that it's just injuries. I don't want to give you the impression that that's the only measurement. It's the most important measurement, because that's the bottom line. I got in a discussion with somebody the other day that doesn't like hard and fast measurements. He doesn't think we ought to measure injuries. We ought to just measure the behavior and walking around supervisors who notice folks, and they notice them doing their jobs the right way. And that's what he wanted to build his safety awards program on. My analogy is that's like awarding a baseball player for having a great swing. Real important, and it's a foundation piece to having a great average, but you still measure him by the results. If he's got a great swing and hits 150, it isn't as important as a guy with a great swing hitting 320. So it's still the end results that matter, and to me that's what you have to emphasize. All the other factors are great, build them in, add them on, but don't make your whole safety recognition program on non-measurable items. Getting back to progressive. So if our top award is $150 for an injury-free month, the second month they're injury-free, I like increasing it to $200 and adding $50 to it each time, or increasing the number of $25 awards or $50 awards that they get. Once you get the momentum going, it's the best friend you have. Momentum is so significant. Once your folks understand and see that they can be injury-free, you've got things rolling in the right direction, and you can keep them injury-free month after month after month. Stay in the game. Stay in the game. Keep the motivation going. Add to the awards. It all fuels the same message that safety is very important, and you continue to engage them in your program. Okay, the next is to give recognition. And to me, you want people to be called to the front of the meeting. You want there to be applause. I want every person that wins an award that gets some sort of recognition called to the front of the room. I like the idea of a handshake. If you can get your CEO or senior manager out there and yourself shaking somebody's hand, thanking them for it, it just makes a world of difference. We always take pictures of the winners, and then we turn them back to the company in the form of a safety poster. You can do that yourselves. Take pictures of the winners, post them around, let everybody know who won, and it's a neat thing to see these smiling faces posted about the company, and it's one of those quiet motivating factors. And of course, verbal recognition. So you're not only shaking their hand, they're not only coming to the front of the meeting, but you're saying, thank you for being safe. Are you aware that this guy has been with us 6 years and he's never been injured? That's a great thing. Verbal recognition is powerful. Being recognized at all is powerful. Next goal is to show appreciation to the folks, and that's part of what we just talked about. But are you aware that the number one reason that people change jobs is because they don't feel appreciated? And think of a workforce in a foundry or a meat packer or a farm or any job that requires physical labor. It would be easy for them to feel like they're just another number, like they're a paycheck with a sort of anonymity on it. The better job you can do letting them know that you appreciate them as people and that you appreciate the job that they're doing for you, the greater response you will have from them. One of the best things about a safety recognition program is it gives you that opportunity to let people know that you appreciate that. It's not easy to find ways. How else can you show folks that work for you that you appreciate them? It's pretty difficult, isn't it? Here's one way. And you're doing it, you're appreciating them in one of the most fundamental, important aspects of their job, safety. And again, handshakes and a thank you from the boss make a terrific impact. We used to have a requirement for every new client that at least in the first 6 meetings, the senior manager had to be there in attendance, shaking hands and saying thank you. We dropped it as a requirement because we can't make people do these things, but it is a suggestion. If you can get the most senior manager out there, at least for the first few meetings to kick it off, or maybe on a quarterly basis, it really makes an impact. The message that it sends to everybody that works in the company is safety must be pretty darn important if the CEO's out here. We know he's got a million things to do running the company, but he takes the time to come to the safety meeting. I guess safety really is a priority. Your third goal, accountability and responsibility. To me, this is one of the most difficult ones because you've got to figure out what your goals are. There's a dispute. I started a discussion on LinkedIn recently on should you set goals, should you set your annual injury goals as 0, or is that so unrealistic that you get no feedback? My belief is if you've got 20 injuries the previous year and you set your goal as 0, I don't think it's realistic and I don't think you're going to get buy-in. I think if you set your goal as 50% reduction year over year, that's realistic. People can relate to that. But your monthly goal is always 0. That's very clear. You want no injuries that month, but in the big picture over the course of the year, keep it realistic. Now, if you've had 4 or 5 injuries the year before, it's totally realistic to say our annual goal is 0. We want no injuries this year. But if you're physically demanding, if you're like one of our clients, you grow radishes and beets, 250 folks working on their hands and knees, it's not realistic to say our goal is 0 injuries because you know you're not going to get there. It is realistic to say we had 24 injuries last year. We don't want to have more than 12 this year. So keep your goals realistic to the degree that you can. Taking responsibility is fundamental to a stronger safety culture. And so the better job you do at getting across to everybody that they're accountable, the better job they'll do at taking responsibility. Next goal is to encourage participation and engagement. And we talked a lot about this. It's certainly a difficult challenge, but I hope I've given you some ideas. Remember that for most of these folks, they've heard safety topics over and over again. Somebody that has worked for your company or worked in this kind of job 20 or 30 years automatically flips that switch and is tuned out from the minute he walks into the safety training on the same exact topic. So you want to change that. You don't want your meetings to be boring. Remember, too, that a lot of workers are shy, and that's particularly true in the Hispanic Latino culture. So you've got to stretch a little bit. You've got to make them comfortable. But if you can get them to participate, they listen better. They will tune in more. And if you get them to engage, that safety program becomes theirs. And that's really what we're after. We want the program to become their program. That's when they'll take the greatest responsibility. I talked a little bit about morale and how it's a key to success. This is a famous restaurant, deli, in Los Angeles. Open 24 hours. Big crowds at breakfast, lunch, dinner. The first year with a full-blown safety recognition program, completely supported by management. By the way, that's the owner in the back left-hand corner, Mark Mendelson. First year in the program, they had a grand total of 1 injury. So it can be done, and the key to it, look at the morale here. Look at the positive feelings that everybody's got, and that's true every month in their meetings. We do 3 meetings because they have different shifts, obviously, but morale is so important. So the more positive you make your meeting, don't think it has to be just serious in this meeting. This is a meeting, this recognition meeting, is one where you're rewarding the folks and you're making it as positive as you can. So to me, the goal is to have pictures come out of your meetings that show that kind of morale.
Joe, I'm going to just step in for a quick second, just a couple of housekeeping items, some of the questions that are coming up. Number one, the calculation sheet that Joe showed us early in the webinar, which is a great tool and really, really useful for estimating the cost that we could have on this. We'll send a copy of that out to everybody, so you will get access to that. We'll also go ahead and send you a PDF of the entire presentation. Several people have asked for that, so we'll make sure you have access to all that. This program is being recorded and will be available probably sometime next week, so we'll get you the information on that as well. So just wanted to give those couple little updates, and then we'll move on with the program. And again, just a reminder, any questions that you may have, any comments, any thoughts on this, there's a couple of things Joe has brought up that typically will lead to some discussion. So I want to encourage everybody to jump in and ask your questions and share your comments.
Anything now that we should address?
I think that one of the areas, Joe, that has come up usually when we get into this part, when we talk about the incentives, is do monetary incentives prove to be disincentives to reporting significant or serious or legitimate injuries? What's the research on that? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, great question. And to me, it's the one significant downfall to traditional incentive programs. I built it into the program a little bit later. In fact, I built it into the program on this slide. So let me run through the components, and at the end, I'll address that we definitely want to discourage non-reporting. We need to make sure that we get the message across to everybody that the goal of this program is to get you thinking about safety, doing your job in the safest way. It is not to hide injuries. That's not what we're after. In fact, we're after just the opposite. We want to be told about any injuries, no matter how minor. Again, we're only going to measure, our measurement is only going to be on recordable injuries, recordable claims on it. It's not, you're not going to be penalized for a first aid. So let us know so we can take care of you, and maybe we can keep it first aid. But again, I'll get to that as soon as I cover the components of a safety recognition program. And to me, these are the six parts. If you build these into your program, you will have a successful program. The first is to put folks on teams. And the reason for that is positive peer pressure is powerful. What we want to do is empower the folks that have been with you for a while, that are loyal, that work safely. Let them be the ones influencing out there, as opposed to the folks that aren't as loyal and maybe aren't as consistent wearing their PPE or doing their job the right way. So put people on teams. The way we work it, everybody on a safe team is eligible for an award. Teams themselves and individuals are eligible for awards if their whole team has been safe. By the way, I strongly recommend monthly meetings. There are some programs that do it quarterly. It's not as effective. So monthly meetings. Teams, you're eligible for an award every month if you've been on a safe team. If your team has not been safe, everybody's ineligible. So there's a real nice, positive, encouraging peer pressure to having teams. Awards need to be motivational. As I indicated, $10 is not motivational. It just simply doesn't do much except sucks up your budget. So give fewer awards, but make some of them motivational. On the other hand, we started working for a janitorial service, and the owner, the second or third month, insisted that we introduce a grand prize of $2,000 for injury-free months. And we had to resign from working with him. An award that's too big, like that, or there's a lawn care company that gives a truck at the end of the year. Awards that are too big do encourage non-reporting. So you want your awards in that sweet spot, significant but not outrageous, not something so large that there's going to be pressure to not report injuries. So motivational, but not crazy. The tough one is meetings that are dynamic. And we've got a real advantage here because we have 3 primary meeting leaders. They're all bilingual. Our gentleman that leads most of the meetings is actually a professional comedian at the Hollywood Improv every Friday night as the host and the closing act. So he's got fantastic interpersonal skills, and our meetings are, as you might guess, a real blast. It's not a stand-up routine or does all one-liners, but he has the ability to engage the audience and really make it a fun, enjoyable meeting. If you've got somebody in your company, and it doesn't have to be the safety manager who's often a strong, positive force out there, but a strong man, if you've got a supervisor or maybe some other manager that has the kind of personality that clicks with people, that can lead a meeting, he can be the meeting leader. It doesn't have to be the safety manager. But it is important to find somebody that can really lead a meeting and give a positive feeling. And by the way, we work with lots of safety professionals who have that kind of personality and ability. Contact me and I'll put you in touch with one of them. We don't have to be part of the equation. Employers group doesn't have to be part of the equation. We can hook you up with somebody that can help you out in that regard if you don't have somebody internally to do that. Fourth component is recognition to teams, departments, and individuals. So I don't want to leave anybody out. I don't want to make it just individual awards. Teams are very important, but don't forget departments. If there's a whole department that's gone for a length of time without any injuries, bring them to the front of the room. If they've gone a year, get everybody up there. Give a plaque or an award to that department. Take pictures, handshakes, show appreciation. Even if you're only giving them $20 a piece, don't leave out departments. Real important that there's a team spirit there. All these folks that are doing roughly the same job are working in the same area. So teams, departments, individuals, all count. The fifth component is management involvement and support. I'm going to show you a picture in a minute that you're going to love of management support. Very important that you have the support of management. And I know it's one of the difficult things for lots of companies to, and you leaders in human resource struggle with it all the time, getting management involvement and support. It's really crucial for your program. If you go back and remind them the potential savings on this, it should help getting them involved and getting them to support your efforts, because the savings to having a strong safety culture in a company goes on and on and on. Once you've established that culture, you've got a good chance to keeping it for a long time. So go for the management involvement and support. Lay out your goals, what you think you can accomplish, and to a lesser degree how the program's going to work, but let them know the results that you can get from a strong program. And the final component is measurable goals. We provide our clients with a huge award board, 39 inches across, where they can record a number of injuries they've had and other metrics that they want to put up there, like safety suggestions and first aids and folks that have been caught in the act of doing something safe. All can go on that awards board, as well as pictures on it. So, but the key is to have measurable goals so that everybody knows what the target is and what the results are. Post every month the number of injuries, or as I say, the other metrics that you have up there, but keep that up to date. All right, here's where I was going to talk about non-reporting. The way we do it in our program, and it's not the only way to do it, but the way we do it is this, that we know if it's a major injury, we're going to know about it. It's the minor injuries that concern us. Somebody that gets a cut and thinks he can handle it on his own, and then a couple weeks down the road it's infected and it's turned into a much more serious injury. That's really what we're after. We want to stop that. So if there's an injury on a team, that team's disqualified for that month, and then clean slate and they're back at it. When we find out that there's been an injury that hasn't been reported, and now you've got a whole workforce that's looking out for this, that team, that individual are disqualified for 2 months. So it's a double penalty to them. It doesn't have to be the only penalty you come up with, but do something that discourages non-reporting. Part of the reason is you want to let them know how sincere you are about eliminating injuries. You're not just eliminating claims by not reporting. You want to eliminate injuries. You want them to be safer. So if they're injured, it's done. It's over. That's happened. You want to know about it. You want to be able to take care of them. You want to get them better as soon as possible. Even if you suspect the injury was the result of foolishness, horseplay, lack of observing safety procedures, be compassionate. Get them taken care of as soon as possible. There's time for disciplinary action later, but when that injury is reported, take care of it. I even like to have a supervisor go with the injured worker to the clinic so you don't get two different stories. But discourage non-reporting by, in our book, by making it a double whammy and by reiterating that that's not the goal of your program. And if you find out about it, that there's a penalty for it. And then my final word of caution is bingo. Please don't consider bingo as a safety recognition program. It has very little to do with recognition. I guess it's a safety incentive program. It's been in lots of places, and it's also been around for 30-some years. It's very difficult for me to tell a workforce nothing more important than your safety, and then you prove it with a bingo game. It doesn't tie together. So avoid bingo. I don't like scratch cards. I don't like the whole idea of games. I really like that this is a safety recognition program. We want to encourage you and motivate you and reward you, but we're not going to play these silly bingo games on it. So finally, here's a picture that I love. This is true management support. The gentleman in the pink shirt is Charlie of Charlie's Pride Meats, and he's with a longtime employee who was the grand prize winner on an injury-free month. This is something every employee in the company can feel, that Charlie owns the company, cares about safety. Why else would he attend every meeting, shake the hand of every winner, thank them for their the job that they're doing. And as you can imagine, the injuries at Charlie's Pride dropped significantly as they embraced safety and appreciated the support that Charlie gave them. One of the other things a safety recognition program can do is increase the trust. Remember, we talked early on that we want to make sure that the folks know that their safety is our highest priority. And when you do this kind of program, you increase that trust. You've made it very visible, and you answer the question if they the question that they all ask: do I believe that my safety is my employer's highest priority? One more example of teamwork. I just love this picture. These are two guys that won, and you can tell the morale and spirit in this company is terrific. One more I have for you. We gave this to the owners of the company Pac Foam as a Christmas present one time, and they were so proud. When you strengthen your safety culture, when you get to that place where it's dynamic and people have accepted it and it's all part of their workplace, their overall culture, you've achieved what you want to achieve. And here's a company that had a total of 3 injuries in 3 years because their culture was so strong. Everybody embraced it. And one of the benefits is a company with a strong safety culture is a nicer place to work. The whole work environment is more positive. So that's the goal. To me, when you strengthen the culture of your safety program, when you strengthen the culture, you've really strengthened the culture of your whole company. It's a foundation and a building block, and that's the goal. To make safety a core value of your organization, and the strong safety recognition program is your vehicle to do so. We are Bridge Safety Consultants. I'm Joe Stevens, and you can contact me directly by phone or email, and our website is up there as well. And I very much appreciate the opportunity to present this to you this morning. So happy to take questions and get in any kind of discussion you'd like.
Joe, we have a couple questions coming in, and while we're doing that, I just want to get your thoughts on something too. A lot of our participants today are with smaller companies. Sometimes you have to actually go to the owner of the company who's going to control purse strings and go through be the final approval process. If it's out of the question to give financial incentives, what would be the best drawback? Even, I mean, you're saying $10, $15 isn't significant. We want to do something that is significant. If the decision maker says no money, what would you recommend?
Certificates, handshakes, pictures, recognition, all those things add up and impact. But I still think you should have meetings on a regular basis where you recognize, maybe you talk about things that went on during the month, or observations, somebody that maybe could do something a little bit safer. But if the owner or the key executive attends and talks about it and shakes hands and maybe gives a safety certificate, they're all pluses.
Thank you. A couple other quick notes too. Again, we will send out the that great calculation sheet that I think is really helpful. We'll send out the HRCI. And then I think what will be easier, rather than us sending out a PDF of the presentation, is if you look on the right side of your screen, there's it says EGY Safety Incentive Program PDF, and there's a download option there. If you just download it off of that, that'll make it a little bit easier, because I know that sometimes we can't get these types of files through to people. So rather than send it out to everybody, I think that might be a little bit easier for everybody. Joe, I want to thank you very much for the presentation. My biggest takeaway on this is hearing everything that you said is just how doable all this is, that in terms of the time and the resources that need to be committed, to this type of initiative, it's really, really minimal and
True.
very doable. And I don't think there's anybody who's been around this environment for any period of time who would argue with the fact that the results are as close to guaranteed as we're going to get. Establishing the culture, developing a recognition program rather than just a simple, you did good, here's some money, but really, really making it part of the culture is going to be a great strategy for a lot of our members to follow. So we really thank you for your insights and everything you've shared. You guys have Joe's contact information there. Please, by all means, feel free to reach out directly to Joe. Always stay in touch with Employers Group's helpline at 800-748-8484 so that we can guide you on some of this as well. And as many of you know, we love to bring Joe in whenever possible. So thanks everybody for your participation today. It's been fun. Thank you, Joe. And we look forward to connecting with you shortly again with our next webinar, which should be coming up.